Yes, sir.
Governor, from one end of the state today, Fort Myers to Jacksonville and everywhere in between, everyone's getting questions. The stations about unemployment. The website's still crashing. The phone's not being answered. Is this a crushing?
Well, I'm not sure now. I mean, so we now have over 1,000 people answering the phones. We pulled the thing about the wait times. I mean, that has improved dramatically. We're getting huge numbers of people through the PEGO website. That obviously is going to be migrated through the Connect system, which, you know, it's got to do the verification of Social Security, all these other things. I can also report that the first federal checks are going out today. So people are going to start seeing that $600 federally. And we're going to, and I said, get those in the hopper and get those out. So there's going to be a priority on doing that as well. So, you know, you're in a situation where people are now going through this PEGA site. I think that that's probably the best solution. Of course, there was 60 servers brought in. There's a whole bunch of things done. So I think that there's a way to migrate that through, process that, and I talked to Lawson today, and I said, you know, we want to turn this stuff around. It usually takes 3 weeks. I said we got to do better than that because folks are going to be going to be looking for the support. So and then we're having even more folks from all these other agencies. We've identified 2,000. You've had a number of them have come in. You know, they're doing things, and we've gotten paper applications because of the FedEx thing. So you have people that are processing those. So you take an agency, and this has been like a dramatic increase, and so I think it's something that's very important, and it's something that we're putting an awful lot of effort into.
Governor mechanism. Said put up a tweet that said that you were working on a program to auto-enroll some of these people that have been laid off, you know, en masse. Disney, the 43,000, Universal Studios. Might be a way to actually get them in faster than having to apply. I don't know if you can expand.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, we got the notice with Disney that they were going to furlough like 70,000, and they had been paying them through March and early April, but I think that's coming to an end sometime this week or beginning of next. And so, you know, we basically said, okay, you know, the system's getting crushed, so we know this is coming. So is there a way we can get a hold of it, maybe get the data directly from the employer, and then go ahead and put it through? Because, you know, we can put it through at like 3 in the morning and stuff when there's not other people doing it. So I think it would make sense. I think it would probably be easier for everyone. Now, they wouldn't get any special place in line. Like whoever's applied, you know, is going to go through that way. But I think when you know you're going to have a massive amount of people from one employer and that's announced, if we can work with them to get that information and get it through the system, I think that will probably be better for everyone. So yeah, we're open to doing that. We're working to try to do it.
Some people that are out there that have been, you know, repeatedly still trying to access.
We've had, I mean, if you look, we have now had, I mean, we've had hundreds of thousands of successful submissions. So there's a lot of this is being processed. There's been an extraordinary amount of man hours that have been put into it. We deal with it every single day, prodding for improvements any way we can. So I think the federal money, you're going to start seeing that today. You're going to see more of that. You know, I said I want to clear this out as quickly as possible. The federal is actually going to be a hard check that people are going to get. The state portion, which is obviously smaller, can be either direct deposit or a debit card. And so there's going to be kind of different means in terms of that. But the federal money will be a hard check.
Gig workers, because some people say they're being denied benefits. Gig workers.
So gig workers, I don't know if they qualify under Florida's existing law, but they do qualify for the $600 federal. So that is absolutely.
Yeah, but how are they going to get that money because if they're denied state?
No. So I just talked to Lawson about it today, and so when you're processing it, there may be certain groups where there's a different calculation. So they understand that, and they understand that the gig workers do qualify for the $600 federal money. Why they did it through the state unemployment system, I will never understand that. It just seems like you're adding additional bureaucracy to this, but that's what they did. So that's what we're going to end up doing.
If you want,
people are applying through it, and then they they get it processed. So that's what. So there's you have the gig workers, obviously the traditional unemployment people that qualify in the state will qualify. The federal is more liberal than what the state is, and so there may be people that get the 600 who don't get the other. I think most people in Florida are going to get both, but there may be some that do one.
Governor, do you believe that the president has the authority to order the states to reopen? And have you spoken with neighboring states about trying to get a regional approach to the eventual reopening? And what do you know?
It's interesting. I watched the briefings, and you go back a week or two, and he was being badgered by the press there for why aren't you shutting down these states? South Dakota doesn't have stay at home and, whatever. And they were badgering about it, and he said, no, it's their decision. Now they're saying you don't have the, I don't know if it's one or the other. I mean, I think functionally, here's the thing. So when they extended the guidelines, a state did not have to continue with mitigation. Like, the state could have done their own thing, but practically speaking, once that happened, you were just not going to be in a situation where you were going to, quote, open up. I mean, that was just the reality. So, yes, he could get rid of the guidelines. Does that mean a state has to follow exactly? But what's going to happen is you are going to have people start to move in that direction. And so just as the extension, I think, led to the continued mitigation, if he decides to lift that or do more liberal guidelines, then I think you're going to see the states inevitably follow, because once one or two states does it, the other states are going to kind of be at a disadvantage. So, but I will say this in terms of the state's authority. Just because there's an emergency, that does not give a governor unlimited authority. And you see some of the things that's going on throughout the country. You have people driving in a drive-through church service. They're not leaving their car. They're not coming into contact with anybody. They're turning on the radio. They're listening to a sermon, and they're getting fined by the government. I don't think that's acceptable. I mean, I don't think that you cannot deny someone a constitutional right if what they're doing has no impact whatsoever on this infectious disease. And the fact of the matter is, if someone drives their car, sits in a parking lot, listens to the good news, and goes home, that has zero impact. So some of this stuff, I think, is petty tyranny. I think it's been a huge mistake. And what we've tried to do here is respect people. Obviously, there's a lot of inconveniences with this situation we find ourselves in. But to do things like that, I think some governors have definitely overstepped their bounds.
That's it. Okay, somebody else.
Yes, sir.
Governor, I do have a question for the bridge loan program. Some people are frustrated that it's going away after it had reached out its max amount of, I think, $50 million. Any thought about expanding that? Why or why not?
Well, we're looking at the options. I know there's some options with SBA, but look, the people that are going to who have gotten hit the hardest with this are folks who are more blue collar in some of the blue collar jobs, some of the service jobs. Those are not necessarily people that are making $250,000 a year. Many of those people work paycheck to paycheck. And so they're going to need to be able to get on their feet. Hopefully that means that we'll have a light at the end of the tunnel where they have a job to go back to. But these small businesses who employ a lot of people in Florida, I mean, for all the talk about the Disney and this type of company, most of these people are working for small and medium-sized business. The small businesses have taken it on the chin. And so I think that we went for the $50 million bridge loan very early. The PPP loans, the federal loans, paycheck protection, I think that's been very popular. Hopefully that will end up making a big difference. I think they're going to do round 2 on that, which will be important. And then we obviously will see what we can do. The way I view it is, some of these businesses, if they don't have the ability to just get through this period financially, may never come back. And I think that would be a loss for the state of Florida.
Called on you to continue keeping schools distance learning through the end of the year. You said, I think, last week.
We've talked about it. Like, we haven't made a decision yet. I mean, obviously, it's going to be based on safety. It's going to be based on consultation with folks and the superintendents, the parents. And so we're just in a situation where, we've got to see where we're going. It doesn't mean that they are going to go back, but I think we just need to get down this road a little bit further. And part of what we're going to be doing, and I'll be announcing probably this week, we're creating a task force on what the phase 2 looks like. What does a reopening look like? And they're going to deal with issues like education. It's not just going back to school, at the end of May for a couple weeks, talking about what's the fall semester going to look like for K-12? What's it going to look like for our universities? What would need to be in place? I mean, we're assuming maybe there'll be an antiviral developed. We don't know how this thing is there going to be this wave and then a second wave comes back in the fall. So there's a lot of things that you need to be prepared for. So they're going to look at all this stuff with education. They're going to look at all with different sectors of the economy. What does a restaurant look like? Kind of in this era going forward. What are some of the other things that people kind of took for granted? I mean, some of the things that have been done throughout the country, closing the gyms. I mean, that's kind of like a textbook thing CDC recognized. And I get like you could get germs and stuff, but I also understand the number one group of people who have been susceptible to COVID-19, if you look at New York and some of these other, obesity is like the number one factor in whether you really get hit hard by COVID-19. And so my fear has been kind of in the last month and continue going, I wonder how the physical activity has been. We got to figure out a way to get people to be able to, enjoy the outdoors, to be able to get out of the house, to be able to so there's a whole bunch of things. It's not just this business or that. It's the education, it's the quality of life, it's exercise and health, mental health. Some of the things that are going to be growing out of this, well, one, we don't know for sure because this has really never been tried in modern America before, but there are obviously going to be second order effects. And those are going to be things that we're going to have to deal with here in the state of Florida.
When you're going to decide that?
To the medical and nursing home communities, they've asked you.
We're looking at it. Yeah, I mean, I haven't made a decision on it. I know that some folks asked me about that. I think it's under review. I haven't made any decisions yet on that. So it's under review. I haven't made any decisions on it, and we'll look. I know New York did it, and some other states have done it, but we haven't made any decision yet here. So.
Other types of business for exemptions to essential businesses. Like you've given WWE, for example, the ability to function.
So as people, that Disney asked to have some of the gardening people be able to go because they have all the millions of dollars worth of stuff there, and it would just go bad. And then we said, okay, is there going to be social distance? Yeah, people are going to go out and work themselves. Obviously, WWE, there's no crowd or anything, so it's a very, very small number of people. So we just kind of look at it on a case-by-case basis. We haven't had a huge amount of requests. I mean, so I think a lot of this will just be, what do we look like in May with some of this rather than being able to do stuff. Now, the one thing, though, I do support is I think that we do need to support like content, like especially like sports and events. And we're not going to have crowds there. I get that. But if we can do, like if NASCAR does a race and can televise it without having large crowds, I think that's a good thing. I'd like to see Woods and Mickelson do the golf or whatever, because that's social distance. You wouldn't have a gallery there. You wouldn't have crowds. But to put that on TV, I think people have been starved for content. I mean, we haven't had a lot of new content since the beginning of March. Here we are now, or the middle of March. Here we are, the middle of April. And if people are, being told to stay closer to the house, it sure does help to have some fresh things to be able to do. And I think people are chomping at the bit. I mean, if you think about it, we've never had a period like this in modern American history where you've had such little new content, particularly in the sporting realm. I mean, people are watching. We're watching like reruns from like the early 2000s, watching Tom Brady do the Super Bowl then, which is neat because he's going to be in Tampa, and I think they got a chance to win a Super Bowl this year. But I think people. To be able to have some light at the end of the tunnel, see that things may get back on a better course. I think from just a psychological perspective, I think is a good thing. So.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
You are watching the Florida Channel, a public service